So Baylor beats Kansas 77-69 in Waco, Texas on Big Monday. And that final score is a big deal for just really one big reason. Vegas, baby. Chris Teahan at the buzzer of a game that a lot of Kansas fans probably had already turned off.
There's been a lot made this season about how few NBA prospects there are on Kansas's roster. And I don't know if any of that's true or how big of a deal it is. What I do know is that Chris Teahan is not going to be making millions of dollars playing basketball after Kansas. But millions of dollars changed hands with that shot he hit on Monday. For some people, he'll forever be a legend. For others, they'll never want you to speak his name again. This is Basketball Friends. He's Matt Tate, and I'm Nick Schwartz. Kansas now falls to 4-3 in Big 12 play. It is their worst start in conference play under Bill Self. Now 3 games back of Baylor. Where's this team at? Where are they going from here?
It's all about self-scouting. It's all about self-awareness. It's all about who are we? How do we get better? It's essentially, Nick, a bunch of quizzes. It's like taking a class. You read a couple chapters, you take a quiz. That quiz is important, but it's not the final. It's not going to determine your grade. It's not going to make or break your scholastic career. They can try to improve and they can work on some things and they can take the court and see how it goes. But if it bombs, move on to the next one and do better next time.
So if everything the rest of the way is a quiz for this team, does that mean David McCormick needs to be cheating off his neighbor's assignment? How exactly does this work? This team is not one small tweak away from being Baylor. They're not a quick fix away from being Gonzaga. We've seen this team go up against the 2 best teams in the country, and when push came to shove and those teams decided they wanted to put Kansas away, they did it pretty swiftly. It's going to be a series of events that need to happen. Play David McCormick less. Go to 5-guard looks. Give DeJuan Harris more of Marcus Garrett's minutes. Some of those might be keys, but it's not as if one of those is going to unlock the key to Kansas's season this year.
Let's look at DeJuan Harris playing point guard for this team and running the show, right? Well, that's going to take the ball out of Marcus Garrett's hands. Is that a good thing? Maybe. Is Harris ready for that? Doesn't sound like Bill Self thinks he is. Otherwise, he probably would have done it. And he's flat out said, Marcus Garrett's got to be on the floor. We're asking a lot of him, but he's got to be on the floor.
We both know that's not going to happen, right? Whether or not we think it should happen, whether you think it's going to unlock the key, it's just not going to happen. And we can talk about it for the next 2 weeks till we're blue in the face. We all know Marcus Garrett is going to continue to play. I think part of it is him playing out of position. I think part of it is this guy just does not look right. And maybe those 2 things are correlated. I still feel like a guy who a lot of people were picking as a first-team All-Big 12 selection, maybe a sleeper candidate to be an All-American. We didn't just make all that stuff up in the offseason. There's still something there, but it does need to improve because you can't go from having a guy who you thought was going to be your best player to being just another dude out there on the court.
During his Kansas career, he's had Devontae Graham and Devon Dotson as the primary ball handler for this team, and that has helped him tremendously. Both of those guys are in the NBA right now. Harris is not an NBA player today. He may never be. I don't think that's the automatic answer. Can he play more, like you said? Sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't necessarily mean Harris plays more, Garrett plays less.
The Jalen Wilson one is interesting to me. You look at so often what happens in professional sports, whether it be the NBA, the NFL. Coaches have to work with what they've got. They're not institutions in college where they run the same system year after year, a lot of times for decades, and they go out and they find these players to fit into their system. In the NBA, in the NFL, you have to constantly find systems to build, machines to build around your best players. I feel like that would be a worthwhile endeavor for this team that isn't really built like any specific team in Kansas's past. There are similarities to some teams, sure, but it is unique in many regards, and one of those regards is Jalen Wilson, who for the first month of this season was not just the surprise of the team, one of the surprises in the Big 12, one of the surprises in college basketball.
Self has said that, right? When talking about how do we help Marcus Garrett, he has said, I think we need to look at maybe initiating offense through Jalen Wilson a little more. So maybe those 2, while separate things, maybe they can kind of work in harmony together to help each other out. And if you can get Wilson going again, it opens up a lot of things for a lot of people, most notably him. I mean, he has really been absent lately, and it's not for lack of effort. He's just hit some kind of a wall, and maybe that has something to do with the way teams are defending him and scouting him and paying attention to him now. They just weren't doing that early in the season. They are now. He's got to figure out how to play through that. But yeah, Kansas can help him. The coaches can help him. His teammates can help him. These veteran players around him can help him.
Some of the best moments we've seen from Jalen have been early in the season when he was being featured as the big guy in those 5-guard looks, which we have seen virtually none of since then. The way they're playing right now is essentially a traditional 4 guards around 1 big. The problem is you don't do it at a very high level. 5 guards would be quite innovative. It's not as if there's nobody doing it, but it would certainly be a new concept for Bill Self.
If they're going to go that way, they have to go all in on it. And I think maybe this Baylor game showed you a little bit that says they're closer to being able to do that. I think the second half, you saw Ochai Agbaji say, we're down big, we got nothing to lose, I'm going to come out firing. He's got to do that if they play 5 guards. First half, Christian Brown came out firing, kept him in the game, kept him from getting beat by 20 plus. He's got to do that if they play 5 guards. They all have to have that same mindset. They all have to take that approach because David McCormick, Mitch Lightfoot, not really that big a factor anymore if they go 5 guards. And really Lightfoot's been one of their better players over the last couple of weeks, simply because he's brought energy and played hard and has that fire and passion to lay it all on the line. The only way it works is if all 5 of those guards are committed and bought in to beat teams with your shot, beat teams with your speed, run, play fast, play loose. And hey, listen, I wanted to bring this up too. Is Bryce Thompson a bigger part of this team than we realized? He wasn't exactly setting the world on fire, but boy, he helped them establish who they were. He was pretty much the 6th man. He came in and he competed, and Self loved that about him. And he played hard and he played good defense and he was unafraid to shoot the ball. I mean, having him out of the lineup has changed the look of this team oh so subtly.
Well, maybe we just contradicted ourselves with that answer. Maybe that is the one tweak to get Kansas where they need to be.
What do? Give him a new finger?
Well, give him a hook. I don't care. A prosthetic. Do whatever it takes. Let's get Bryce Thompson back on the court as soon as possible and see if that unlocks the key to all of Kansas's goals. Okay, it's time for another edition of everybody's favorite game. Name that player. The rules are simple. Matt, I will give you a quote from Bill Self in which he is talking about either a current or a former Kansas basketball player. It is your job to tell me which player he is talking about. You are currently 0-1 on the season, looking to get back to 500, so this is a big one.
Need it.
Your quote this week is very short and simple. Quote, he was the most talented player I've ever coached.
Oh my. That is a loaded question. Short and simple, sure, but loaded. I will not be able to forgive myself if I don't answer this way, so I got to go with this guy. I got to go with Joel Embiid.
That is incorrect, Matt. The correct answer was one of Joel Embiid's teammates, Andrew Wiggins. Now, this quote is from 2016. So Joel Embiid hadn't quite become the process that we know now. You know, with these quotes, you may start to notice a theme developing. Last week, the quote that was referencing Quentin Grimes was, he's probably as complete a guard as we've ever had. The quote I gave you tonight from 2 years later was, he was the most talented player I've ever coached.
So the tricky thing about that quote for Self is that he's starting to stack up too many of these best player ever types, right? Frank Mason, Quentin Grimes, as you mentioned, Wiggins in this quote, Joel Embiid. I mean, if he's not careful, by the end of this thing, he's going to have 8 or 9 different best player ever types.
I can't wait to ask Bill Self in 2030 where Mitch Lightfoot ranks amongst the all-time greats.